Wait a minute. Nah, it's there. There it is, the pop out. Pull that right down here to screen 2, gentlemen. Drag that there. Put that there. I think we got a stable stream. I think I finally figured out. You know how for months, actually that's public. You know how for months we've been doing this nonsense where I think I finally figured out. You know how for months. Check out the feeds are looking okay. It's public. With me you know how for months we've been doing this. There we are, guys. You know how for months I have been having this problem where the feed is all screwed up and it's dropping frames. So I'll be like, And I haven't been able to figure this out. I've been like, what the heck is YouTube doing? Because it didn't used to do this. Then I turned on a VPN because I have like 500 to 700 megs down and like 100 megs up, right? We're in modern times. It's not like in the old days. Back in my day, when I started Activism, I was out there on the streets trying to live stream with a phone. Half the time I didn't even live stream because the signal was so bad. It's not like for these new kids like the James Freemans that have 4G technology. But the weird thing is I ran the signal through a VPN in the US and the drop frames went away. It's like they're punishing me just for being in Mexico. What the heck, Google? Even though my bandwidth is good, their systems aren't functioning correctly. Buenas noches todos. Good to see you guys in there. Mark, Steve. I just thought I'd do a late night stream because I know I haven't been doing enough of these for you guys lately. I'm gonna be perfectly honest while you guys get in there. And we'll I don't even know what we'll talk about on this show. I don't want to go too long. It's getting late. It's almost midnight here. So this really is a late night stream. But there's been so much unbelievable, psychotic crap happening. If you follow my Facebook page or my Facebook personal profile or something like that, you see me making posts and sharing things and sharing comments. And the level of pure vitriol and ignorance that I'm getting is... it's like nothing I've ever seen. The patriot community is completely gone. They're just blindly and stupidly following fascism. The redcoats would have seemed like diehard patriots compared to the absolute mental cases worshiping Donald Trump that we have now. And it's been wild to watch. I know it's late. Probably not very many of you will be on tonight. And that's fine. It's a Thursday night. Dazilla Hawk, William, good to see you guys in there. I do watch James's videos occasionally. I don't know if I've seen any in the past couple weeks, but I try to watch his videos. It looks like a rivet. I keep finding screws that belong with something, and then they're not. I'm letting you guys pop in there, and then we'll try and talk about something productive. I hope you have all been well. I hope you're staying positive in these crazy, and I do mean crazy, really psychotically crazy times. I was in the studio, I was recording today. Forgive me because I just threw a poster up from another video I was recording on my photography channel because I was doing a review, just so it's somewhat contextual. I was doing a review of this camera along with this camera while we're waiting for you guys to get in here, because some of you guys some of you guys probably follow my photography channel, right? I was a photographer long before I was an activist. I actually just did my first workshop down here last weekend for a small group in all Spanish. That was a trip, doing everything in Spanish. And, it's one thing to speak Spanish, and it's another thing to give a lecture, a technical lecture in Spanish. So that was fun. But anyway, that's from the poster, because I was doing a review of these 3 cameras today, pitting the Nikon, the new Nikons against these Micro Four Thirds and Fujis and stuff like that, and just kind of talking about the ins and outs of those. I won't bore you too much with that. However, I kind of want the stream to at least build up a little bit, right? So we'll talk about a few random things. You guys are welcome to keep the chat going, throw something in there. Because if you don't see me here, I'm busy with other projects. I'm busy doing photography, doing stuff in my studio, things like that. But I'm going to be perfectly honest. I've wanted to do some videos about the stuff that's going on, but I've been a little bit, I guess, overwhelmed. Not because I don't have responses. It's just that I've realized that no one cares in most of the world and most of our country anymore. The facts, I guess what I've realized is that the facts mean absolutely nothing, is really what I've realized. And that's kind of disturbing. It really is. Let me see if I have any interesting things to show you. You know what I thought we would do today? I had an idea so that I could deal better with taking on things that are in the news, right? Because I do the live show and I take snippets out and we break it up. And I have a response, right, for most of the things that are going on. And I can comment on these things. But because I have a lot going on, I don't always get it pulled together, because the truth is my YouTube channel is kind of been shadow banned for ages. When I first started turning against the police, when I bailed and said I'm not doing this anymore, I went to Mexico and I didn't support the immigration psychopaths that want to destroy freedom in every possible way. And so I just kept plugging away. The message stays the same. And at some point, I think, hopefully, people will wake up and see the positivity of the message that I've been trying to present for a long time. In the Tri-Cities. Yes, I'm definitely from Washington State. I was born in Seattle. So, good to see Canada in there. Good to see Canada kicking the U.S. in the teeth a little bit. Not that it's. Here's my one concern about Canada. I have no problem with Canada booing the national anthem and our nationalism, our stupidity, our crazy laws. The problem is Canada's been also mistreating its people really bad too, and people from other countries. Maybe not as bad as the U.S., but I know a lot of Canadians, and they've been telling me for years, like, our police are getting worse and worse and worse like the U.S., our government's getting more psychotic. And there was a lot of resistance this past year to the politicians in Canada. So while I fully understand Canada's position in that the so-called patriot, conservative, right, Christian is always talking about national sovereignty and things like that, and that's a complete lie. They don't respect anyone's national sovereignty. They only respect them being the dominant force. So I'm totally with Canada on that. What does concern me is Canada, because now what I see the politicians in Canada doing is Canada's uniting against the U.S. stupidity, and therefore their politicians are like, hey, this is our opportunity, so they stop looking at us. And I'm actually curious, like, where that's going to go. Because that's what politicians do. It's never actually about patriotism or saving the country. It's about saving their ass. That's what it's always about for a politician. Aren't I the guy wanted in the States? I hope so. In these times, it's a badge of honor to have a warrant for standing up for freedom, because the U.S. is a completely anti-freedom society. And so whether someone's defending the people of, the rights of the Palestinians, whether someone's defending the Constitution, the rights of immigrants, I think we should be positive about the fact that, hey, like, woo, I'm wanted. I'm probably not very wanted. I don't know if there's actually even a warrant for me anymore. But yeah, here's the thought. Here was my new thought to do some topical. And if I can, the problem is if I can make a simple system, because I don't have a team like organizing and writing scripts or anything like that. I do fine when I get on video. You guys know that. I can talk all day and I know the stuff, right? What I want everybody to do in the chat is go to Drudge Report. I know Drudge Report is completely sold out NWO shill, but what's hot on Drudge Report is what all the good sheep are talking about, and it's what the propaganda is focused on. So by going there, you can see where the emphasis is at a given moment with these crooks. And so my thought was, we go to Drudge Report and then take a topic from one of the headlines and talk about that topic. And see what happens. And as for answering more, why would I do that? Why would I respond or give credibility to an illegal court that defies the law and the Constitution and that are criminals when I don't have to? I understand, like, when they're at your door trying to kick your door in, or you're in jail and you're trying to get out, you kind of have to play the game. But I took a road that was more powerful than that, and that was saying no. This is a problem that we have in our society, is we say no to everything in our daily lives, in our negativity, except the government. And the most powerful word is no. Now let's see. I mean, we could certainly talk about this Doji and them pretending that they're saving all our money, which of course they're not. The coup de grace for me in all this thing is they're talking about a tax credit. But the refund, Doji saved all this money, right? So we're going to give a refund, but only to the people successful enough that they were actually paying in taxes in the first place. It's just like, this is the perfect representation of this narcissistic regime that we have going on right now. Okay, but let's look for a topic. In every one of these live shows, I try to take one topic and we'll look into it and we'll talk about it. And I'm just looking over. You guys can go to Drudge Report too. I see that they're talking about this breach where these idiots are talking about their plans for murdering and killing in other countries over messenger apps. The reason I stopped you today, it's interesting because I've seen some really good activists down here in Mexico that are stopping and engaging, auditing the police essentially at their police stops. And they don't know me, so if I comment, it's kind of irrelevant to them, right? What I find interesting and honestly a little bit encouraging is they've essentially taken the style of the auditor that most of the auditors credit me with. I never called it auditing. I just went out and did those things in a time when not many other people were doing it. And I made a lot of videos about that. And to see that influence now of how we do that in the US, they're much more legal and formal and like calm about it because they're not as aggressive in the way they interact in public down here. But what are essentially auditors, and usually they're lawyers, sometimes they're even politicians that are doing this down here that are kind of activist, like state politicians, state congressmen kind of thing. And they're on the street pulling up on police stops. And I could show you these videos, but they're all in Spanish. And so I don't know. Let me just see if I can give you an example of this, because this would be interesting. I think this is interesting for what all the police activists are doing in the States too. See if I can get one to load. See if there's one that I've shared recently. Because I do share these occasionally, but they're in Spanish. So if you don't speak Spanish, they kind of have to be directly translated. I did. Okay, I know where I put one. I saved one from this guy. This guy's good. If you speak Spanish, I would follow this guy. I would love to meet this guy. I'm nothing to him, I don't think, because even though I definitely see our U.S. style in this, I doubt that he actually realized, like, I think they're just out trying to defend people's rights, right? And the YouTubers in the U.S. have definitely influenced Mexico, but it doesn't mean they're like, oh, I'm going out to do this style of this guy. I saw a video. I could have sworn I saved this. Here we go. Here we go. This is it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play this. It looks like it's putting a... Hang on a second. Bear with me. Okay, no, this is good. This is good. I can play you guys this because apparently YouTube now will, Facebook now, like YouTube, will put auto-translated. So I'll try and, like, interject if the translation is bogus on this. I know, that's not what I wanted. Hang on, let me go that. Make it big. I'll try and interject if the translation's bogus. But I think... I appreciate that, Nasty. Daily, Steve. But this has, obviously when it auto-translates, it's not great. But this is really a good thing, you guys. You can actually follow activists on here. This is on a page, but I'll show you this guy's name in a minute because I follow him and see his videos regularly. And you tell me if you see what these guys are doing. I mean, a lot of these guys are, there's a lot of lawyers down here that they call them licenciados. So there's a lot of different levels of lawyers, but these guys go out and they have a lot of times they have some kind of credentials, or maybe they're a local politician. We don't see that as much in the States. Normally it's just us crazy people that go out and stand up to these cops. And so I think this is really encouraging with all the corruption. This guy, they're always trying to screw over. They're always threatening him. They arrest him sometimes. And hang on, let me get the untangle the headphones here so that I don't make a bigger mess of this. Just a second. As you can see, I'm not very prepared tonight. Okay, so bear with me. Good to see you guys in there. Now, let me mark this. I'm going to actually do this as a breakout clip since it does have some... Okay. This is an interesting clip I want to look at because what I'm seeing, and I've seen on the rise for the past couple years, when I started doing what is now called auditing, it was kind of crazy, right? It was the early days of cell phones recording video, live streaming sucked. It was different, okay? It wasn't like these new kids like James Freeman, and they have like their 5G phones and they're out there like live streaming all day. I normally didn't live stream because live streaming was so unreliable and it didn't have a local copy saved. So you would be missing major parts of the video in those early days. And that's probably still true in some areas. But because internet and cell phones and all this stuff has gotten so much more reliable. What I've seen down here in Mexico in recent years is some of these activists like this guy I'm about to show you now, where they're doing a similar thing. And I don't know if they came up with this or if they saw videos like we're doing in the States, like myself, like James Freeman, like the other auditors that are going out and engaging. But these guys do kind of like I did. It kind of reminds me of me. They're not necessarily going in and auditing at the post office, let's say. That would going into government buildings and just scrapping with them. Those videos are really funny to watch, and I love watching videos like James Freeman's. But back when I was doing this, I wouldn't usually go out and say, oh, I'm going to go film videos today. I would just see something happen and roll up on it and turn a camera on, and usually it had to do with police, right? Or if an incident fell in front of me, which they always seem to, I would turn on the camera. And that seems to be what these guys are doing here. Let's see if you guys can watch this. And let me get a window here of this video. A lot of these guys are down like in Michoacan, things like that. And let me see how if I can get this to size. This is more or less. This is going to have to work, I think. Okay, so hang on. Here we go. I wish I could get this a little bigger because it's not. Enter full screen. Oh, there's a full screen. Okay, here we go. So let's take this to the beginning. And let's just kind of skim through this. And see. Oops, audio.
Hermano, ¿por qué te están deteniendo? A ver, vamos a ver. Sí. Me voy a bajar, hermano.
Now, look at the captions down here at the bottom.
¿Están esculcando aquí a los chavos?
So he's pulling up. The police love to harass young guys on motorcycles and impound their motorcycles and stuff like that because they're an easy target to extort. State police, state troopers. Hopefully you guys can see the captions down there at the bottom.
A ver, identifícate primero, amigo, por favor.
This guy I don't know, but this video really caught my eye.
¿Cómo te llamas? De acuerdo al artículo 42 de la Ley General de Seguridad. ¿Qué está pasando, hermano? ¿Por qué te detuvieron?
Identify yourself. What's going on?
Chequeo general. Eso.
A general revision.
No. ¿Tiene un reporte de robo la moto?
Has the bike been reported? Theft? Oh, he doesn't have plates.
¿Con qué documento? Pero ¿con qué documento debes? Nadie puede ser molestado en su persona, en sus bienes o en sus pertenencias, a no ser por una autoridad responsable que emita un documento.
Okay, what he just quoted there is their Fourth Amendment, and that would be the 16th Amendment. So nobody can be molested in their property, their documents, if there's not due process, a warrant, etc. is what he's happened. Let me know if you guys are, yeah, I know the captions are tiny, but welcome to YouTube. So, but just watch the style of these guys, too.
No, tiene que emitir un juez, tú no eres juez. Por eso identifíquese.
You have to bring a judge, you have to bring a warrant.
¿Cómo?
Identify yourself. We have a law here called Federal Law 42 that requires officials to identify, and they constantly refuse to do it. In fact, when I was arrested in San Juan, it was because I refused to comply with them until they identified and complied with the law.
Hermano? ¿Qué te dijeron? Ajá.
So he goes and inserts himself. Now, you notice the demeanor, right? They are a lot calmer here, but also the police are a lot calmer. The police don't just turn psychotic and start like arresting people and shooting people. They can't get away with that here. So notice how even though he directly inserted himself into the middle of this, the police actually are responding knowing that there's nothing they can do about it. And he's usurping their traffic stop.
Por favor, identifíquese, por favor, oficial.
Identify yourself.
De acuerdo al artículo, ¿te estaban esculcando, sí o no?
They were checking me out. They were reviewing my things.
No puedes hacer eso. Eso no. La ley lo dice, hermano, pues no lo digo yo.
He's saying, this is what the law is clear. I'm not inventing this.
El Código Nacional de Procedimientos Penales lo dice. Sí. No, hermano, yo estoy aquí defendiendo al pueblo.
I'm here defending the city.
Por eso, y por eso.
Notice the calm demeanor, though.
Down
here, you wouldn't start saying F off and things like that, because that's very aggressive in the culture. Now they're trying to tell him, oh, your car's parked illegal. They're trying to distract, like cops always do. It's just in the States, they would actually arrest us a lot of times for this. Now, I did stuff like this a lot, but I had to be really careful.
No. A ver, identifícate, por favor.
Now, these cops know they're toast, and I'm not going to watch the whole thing with you guys. You guys can come back.
Sí, traigo.
He goes around with them for a few minutes, and they say, oh, we're going to give you a ticket for parking bad. He says, go for it. And now they're leaving. Right? The kid left.
No, el oficial. Yo no estoy deteniéndolos.
And the cops just give up, and they let the kids go. Right? And now they're just around looking stupid, knowing that they just got owned and they got their ass handed to them.
Hemos ayudado aquí al pueblo, lo hemos ayudado. Hablen.
And they're not happy, right? They're mouthing off, and he's saying, "You go ahead."
Sí, ahí está.
This part reminds me of me when I would do videos. He gets back in the car. This was a key thing. And maybe this is normal now. But what I noticed when I first started doing activism is that people would film, but they wouldn't explain what was happening. They wouldn't explain after what had happened. So there was no context and there was not a story. The reason my videos started going viral, I think, when I started doing activism is because I would explain what was happening. I would talk to the people instead of just to the officials or instead of just silently filming. I would make a narrative. And then when I finished, remember when I stopped that cop and I got in the car and I explained myself? That's what he's doing right here.
Es la policía del estado, un día chingan, el otro también.
They screw us over every day. We're tired of this.
Que la policía, en lugar de estar cuidando al pueblo,
instead of keeping us safe and helping us, they're screwing us over. This guy's good. I like his style.
Disculpa, me tuve que estacionar porque yo estaba viendo cómo a los chavos lo estaban esculcando de sus bolsas.
He's explaining,
yo
right?
Lo estaba viendo. Y
he's explaining everything.
Prefiero, si se molestan, discúlpenme, pero estoy ayudando a dos inocentes. Imagínense ahorita.
He's saying, I'm trying to help the people. Sorry if that offends you.
Ahorita le siembran algo, hermanos. ¿Y de qué se trata? No, yo estoy cansado. Estoy cansado. Yo no sé tú, pueblo, pero yo sí estoy muy cansado.
I can even see the stress on his face, and I know how that feels because it looks easy, but it's not. This guy, this is on a page called Dirigentes de Michoacán, but I think they just shared it. So I don't know who this guy is exactly, but I'm going to keep an eye out for him. There's a few others. If you guys want to review some of these other videos, I think there is something to be learned. While I do believe when I watch these, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, I think that what the activists here are doing, they have taken a cue from us in the States. But I think we can also take a cue from the activists in Mexico because they come in and they know the law, and I realize the culture is different, so that they can win more on that. The police in the US, when you confront them with law, they just ignore it. They beat you, they tase you, things like that, unless you're really careful, right? Obviously you can do it. I did it, James Freeman do it, lots of people do it. The confidence goes a long ways. But you really got to walk that line. Of course, that's true here as well. But these guys come in and they come in, they're not vulgar at all. And they're not even there like to provoke. They're there in this very conversational fashion because that goes with the culture. And so I think it's really interesting to watch these guys and see how they're doing. And it's encouraging to me that, you have people here growing a pair of balls. The US is really lost. I admire the people that are still standing up there, but the US is so completely lost in fashion. The so-called patriot movement hates the Constitution and freedom with a passion at this point, supporting all the deportations, all the violations of rights, sending people to death camps in El Salvador that haven't even been convicted of a crime. I mean, we're talking about next level historical stuff where these people will go down in history as being part of true evil. The US is really far gone, and it's encouraging in a place like Mexico where people actually can still run from the cops and not get murdered, where police can't just gun us down on the street willy-nilly, even though sure there's a lot of corruption and a lot of problems and a lot of shady stuff going on in the cover of darkness. But seeing people stand up, that's really encouraging. If you guys want to watch this video, let me see if I can copy a link of this video and I'll dump it here in the chat. For those of you that want to view it better in context in Spanish, or remember you can turn on those subtitles in English auto-translate. But I thought this was interesting. I want to give a shout out to the Mexican liberty activists, auditors, if you want to say that. I don't think they call themselves that down here. Respect to you guys. Keep fighting. I hope to get to know you someday, even though you probably don't know me. I just love seeing you guys do this and stand up. So keep doing it, and I'll keep watching. Okay, what else? I'm gonna go through your comments here because I sometimes miss them. I'm too lazy to learn more than one language. Being lazy gets us in a lot of trouble because pushing ourselves is always the way to go. That's how we get better. But it's hard to learn another language. What you do is you immerse yourself. There's so many Latino communities. It's so refreshing when you go up in the States. Like I don't go up there, but family that knows Spanish and they go up there and they think they're just normal gringos, and then they start chatting them up in Spanish, and it's like they just feel so much at home with you. If you speak to someone in their native language, that's how they're villainizing these people. These people aren't racists and murderers that are being deported. These are construction workers. These are families. These are aunts and uncles and sisters and brothers. These are normal people, and there's no place in the law and the Constitution for what's being done to them. It's absolute despotism. It's absolute fascism. The Founding Fathers did and would have revolted and started a revolution for far less. That's how you know that these people aren't patriots, because they're supporting the abuse and the restriction of immigration. The Founding Fathers, and you can read this in the Declaration, they started a revolution over the king trying to restrict immigration. And obviously there was other things as well. But that is one of the listed complaints, is that the king had the audacity to restrict immigration. And so, yeah, it's good to watch, and hopefully I can touch bases with some of these activists down here sometime. And I would like to think that while sometimes it seems like nothing changes, the work I did in trying to speak out against our own corruption, that some of that does trickle down here and affect how them standing up down here. So yeah, back to random stuff. Thoughts on the GFX 100 RF. Yeah, I saw some videos on that. No mommy's way or no mommy's way. No, it's the first one. It's the first one, but it's more like W-E-Y when they say gway, like in texts. But yeah, regarding cameras, since they are an important part of the job, I would love to see more people with cameras doing close-ups and photography in this. I've actually thought about doing this, where you can mix a lot of these hybrid cameras now. It's so easy to mix imagery, still imagery in these scenes. Because what happens in these, when we're doing videos, this is something I've been thinking about. So if you take, this actually is a relevant context of cameras for immigration entering the country without permission. No, they're not. They're not two different things at all. The Constitution absolutely forbids the government requiring you to have permission to enter the country. All immigration restrictions are illegal. And yes, that's all been covered. We won't argue that tonight. I will do more videos on that. But I actually do have a very thorough article that crushes every possible argument that anybody's going to make, any of the fascists in here tonight are going to make on this. There is no justification for the immigration restriction. If your borders aren't open, you're a fascist. That's what the Founding Fathers said. And not in so few words, but you can read their quotes in the article I just put. The keyboard keys I have, I don't remember. This is a Keychron C1, but I did buy a set of caps for it, and I can't remember what it was. But it has been really good so far, this keyboard. I need to clean it. It's a good thing the camera doesn't show down there. Okay, back to our random chat. Now that part on the activism, I am going to snip that out and put it on there, because I want the other auditors and people doing this kind of stuff to see that this is spreading, right? And that we need to make sure our message is on point and that we're like really, really going for it. That new Fuji, speaking of cameras, that new Fuji medium format, I have an X100V. I've taken thousands upon thousands of photos on this. It's a great camera, but it's a fixed lens like that new Fuji. I don't really see the point of having that expensive, like $5,000 for a medium format. If I was going to go to a GFX series, I think at that point I would probably get an interchangeable lens one, because the main thing I would use that much resolution for would be landscapes, would be portraits, fashion work, things like that. A camera like this, I just bought a Nikon ZF. And the reason I bought this is because it has a very short flange distance, if you guys know what that means. So I can adapt any lens. I can actually put these old vintage 50-year-old lenses on this, like, you know, something like this Olympus Mzukio 51-2. I can mount it on this. But I can also mount, it's a Nikon camera, but I can mount current Sony lenses on this as well with an adapter and have full autofocus and everything. So I don't even have to buy Nikon lenses. But I can also put these vintage lenses, and there's actually an autofocus adapter that lets you take old lenses like this, that were manual focus, and it's got built-in movement, and it lets you use these old lenses autofocus. That's one of the main reasons I wanted this. It's a full frame sensor, right? I just did a video talking about these different types of cameras if you're looking at cameras, guys. But what I think, I do want to bring up this, because I would think as activists, remember an activist is a journalist. And when you talk about, I can't show you right now because I'm filming with it right now. If you take micro Four Thirds cameras, this is a micro Four Thirds camera. These have a lot smaller sensor. They're still very good, and I can still get excellent image quality. These are not a cell phone by any means. These are high quality cameras. The thing is with these, you look at the size of something like this. This could be a camera for an activist like you, James, or like you, Midwest Accountability. Those that are out doing the streets, and you could have maybe your cell phone or whatever your streaming rig is, but then you can have a system like this. The key with these is you could get pretty small telephoto lenses on these, because this is a 2x crop, right? If you understand what that means. So if you get a 40, you can get a 40 to 150 millimeter lens on this that fits in the palm of your hand. It just sticks out to about here. But that's an equivalent of like a 300 millimeter zoom, which is very close. Way higher qualities than your phone. So not only can you do video with these for getting higher quality B-roll, if you got especially a lot of these, it's not like me back in the old days with a crappy iPhone 3G and I was alone hoping not to get shot, right? A lot of the auditors now are going out with groups, and there's 2 or 3 of them. So you could have a backup camera, right? You got people to watch each other's back. You got a little more time to focus on the, dare I say, creative aspect of the journalism, so that you can get images and posters and close-ups and actual journalism images, not just clips from the video. And I think this is something to talk about. You take a little camera like this, phase detect autofocus, super tiny, long range telephoto without getting huge lenses like you do on these full frame cameras, 4K video. The potential of something like this is really useful. And I've even thought about, because ultimately, as a photographer, I started as a photographer, right? And I became an activism, and people kind of made fun of it. And they're like, oh, these crappy videos, this isn't art, this isn't filmmaking. And when I did activism, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make a beautiful scene, right? I was documenting, but that's what we are as journalists. We're investigative journalists. And that's why I've always felt that, we can be pushy, but we should try and be professional. And I know some people, they differ with me on that, and that's fine. But this, for example, is Olympus EM5 Mark II. But in the Micro Four Thirds system, you have a ton of little small cameras. There's bigger ones too, of course. There's a ton of little small cameras. You can pick up one of these for about $500 or $600 and then get a lens for it. They're not cheap cameras. And when they're new, they're price of full professional cameras. I could go shoot a wedding with this any day of the week, or a portrait session, and I do. I mean, if you want to look at the quality, and I think that this could be valid for getting more media, right? If you take, let me find something from this. Let me find a couple photos that I could show you from these, just to give you an idea. These were both taken, bear with me. Here's an example. Here's 2 photos, both taken on this camera right here, right? And so like you look at this, and these are high-end professional level cameras. And I use them for portraits and street photography and things like that, but these would be excellent journalistic tools. They really would. And I think it's definitely something that, as we see, we need to be better than the news media, I guess is what I'm getting at. The news media is useless. They suck. They just parrot what the government says. It's important to understand. I know that people that are out filming police and doing accountability and research and going into buildings, like, we're still developing a style, but this is a new wave of journalism, because the old journalism is no longer journalism. Does that make sense? And I think that doing more than a cell phone, even though this is still the way to go if you just want to like live stream and you're alone, you want to grab something, you want to interact with a cop. This should be on, right? But then you could have one of these around your neck for the more journalism aspect of it. You see what I'm saying? And something to think about. Okay, just because somebody mentioned cameras, and anytime I mention cameras, I'm going to go hog wild because I know cameras. I know cameras and, well, yeah, inside and out. That's what I do. You guys can follow my camera channel. On the camera channel, we do not discuss the politics of things. It's a strictly camera channel, photography channel, because I've been doing photography for 25 plus years now, and that's what I do. Yeah, I mean, national parks, everything is total fascism. So it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyways, what else? It's late. I do think we had a good talk about a little nod. I wanted to give a little nod to the activists down here in Mexico, and I'll try and do more of their videos if I can get like English subtitles on them and stuff, so we can review those and kind of audit the audits for real. But like, see, because it helps if you can step outside of your own box, if you can break the habit of being yourself, if you can see what other people are doing and get out of this U.S. we're America kind of mindset that affects us, even if we're liberty lovers, and there's very few of those left. Most people just support the fascism and the Donald Trumps and the shutting people down, the deporting people, the ruining people's lives, the murdering people. That's what people love now. Okay? But yes, it's something to think about. And you can find my photography channel is Seim Studios. So I'll throw a link in there to that. And just try to keep it on reasonably on topic there. I don't respond to comments about Trump and things like that on that channel because I'm trying to build that channel. Like, that's my job. And it's not a secret what I do, but there's a lot of people that just subscribe to that channel for the photography aspect. So sometimes I do a little crossover over here, and even occasionally a tiny bit of crossover there, mentioning journalism, filming the police, things like that. But it's wild. And we're seeing all this craziness every month, a new distraction. What blows my mind, we had these fires. I don't know, I know people say it's lasers and all this stuff. I think there's just so much mismanagement. I think government is so incompetent. There's so much mismanagement in places like California that this stuff just gets out of hand. You almost never see fires raging out of control here, but everything's built of concrete, right? But ever since Trump's been inaugurated, it's just been full pedal to the metal craziness. What's wild to me, Trump didn't do this in his first term. Trump toed the line with playing the game. And now he's stepping on everyone, and they don't seem to be doing anything. And I find it wild just watching yeah, I know here's what we gotta realize, and we really gotta be careful about what we're sharing. It's so hard to get information about, what's happening in Russia, what's happening in the U.S., what's happening in Mexico, because the information is constantly just hyperbolized by both sides. California does have a water issue, but the fire hydrants probably had no water in them because there was no pressure. I mean, it's a lot of times it's not just the so-called right. The Trump tards, they make all these articles just blaming everything on libs, and the libs blame everything on the right. And I'm just like, both sides are psychotic. Now we know Trump is a criminal, he's a terrorist. But and he's waging war on the Constitution in a very blatant sense. You always know when government is calling everyone else terrorists that it's them who are the terrorists. This is why the word was invented. You have to understand this. So when everybody's saying like terrorists, I just flip the word on them. Police are terrorists. The U.S. government are terrorists. The United States is probably the #1 terrorist state on the planet. They terrorize the whole world. So whenever a government is saying terrorist group, terrorist cell, terrorist organization, bombing terrorists, they're the terrorists. And this is a cover word they use for dumb, ignorant people to think that it's okay that they're committing crimes against humanity. But in terms of this larger picture of how much conspiracy we have, and how much of this stuff is being said. Sometimes I do think we think the government is smarter than they are. Like, I think they're dumbasses. They're just really evil ones, and they don't care who they step on, who they run over. And sometimes I think we think they got this huge master plan that's all sorted out, but I'm not sure they do. I think sometimes the conspiracies are real, but sometimes it's easy to win as an evil person when you have no values, you're not afraid who you can run over, and you never run out of resources because you can just steal more at gunpoint from the people. Think about that for a second. You don't actually have to be that organized when you have all the resources in the world or in your nation at your command, and you can literally rob widows and children and murder people if someone gets in your way, and then just have your simps make propaganda like they do for Donald Trump and like the left did for the people in the past to do whatever they want. James Freeman. We were talking about you, James. I was talking about you should get a camera, and we should do some more high-level journalism along with the live streams. But yeah, I think that those are worth talking about. What do I think of what's the name of the president of Mexico? The president of Mexico seems like they're just doing the same old, same old. So would the last president. The politicians that get this high level are always the same. But this back and forth of like Trump trying to say this about Mexico, Trump is a liar. Trump simply invents propaganda, and people that are too dumb to do their own research repeat his propaganda. I don't understand how, it's amazing to me that people are going for this and just worshiping this guy like he's Jesus, when he's blatantly at war with the Constitution. Do you think that Trump sending people to death camps and to prisons who haven't even been given a trial or been convicted of a crime just because you don't like their tattoos and the color of their skin, do you think that's not going to come back to bite you, your kids, your grandkids? You know how many people have come to me over the years? I don't have a number, but it's been a lot, who were against me, who mocked me, and then it was their kid swept up. It was their kid in prison. It was them that got harassed by the cops, and they were like, oh, sorry, you were right. Is there anything I can do? And I'm kind of like, well, not really. This is what's going to happen. The people that are calling themselves patriots and Christians, and they're supporting these atrocities and violations of the Constitution that Trump's engaging, they're going to see what happens when you support evil. It's going to come back, guys. And I'm not saying we relish it. I'm not saying we cheer the suffering of other people. I'm going to always be defending everyone's rights. When their due process is getting violated, I'm still going to be standing with them. That's what you do if you love freedom. These people that are calling me an idiot and crazy and a libtard and a leftist and a communist because I actually put articles and facts and I link things, like this right here. These people, it's going to come back on them. But when their kids are the ones getting sent to the camps, I'm still going to understand. I'm not going to just say, you deserve it, I told you so. That's not what good people do. And yeah, and James, you were there. I knew you in 2016. You guys know that my videos in 2016, I told you before Trump got elected the first time, this is a scam. The guy is literally a reality show actor, you guys, and that's what the whole country looks like right now. And most people, maybe not most of you in here, are just sucking his dick. It's truly mind-boggling because the stuff he's saying is so 100% contrary to what patriots were saying just a few years ago. He's not pro-land rights. He's not pro-police accountability. He's not pro-Second Amendment. He's not pro-First Amendment. He's not pro-Fourth Amendment. Literally, absolutely everything that the patriot community, when I was leading national scale gun rights protests in 2014, 2015, everything that they were preaching about freedom in those times, Trump is against and actively destroying. And they're like, oh man, this guy's so good, he's finally bringing America right. Why? Because he signed an executive order that means nothing legally, saying that men can't play in girls' sports? Like, I get that you can see that and be like, oh, I'm on board with that, but that's not even the president's purview of authority or his job. Like, I don't have any problem with a president saying like, yeah, men shouldn't be playing women's sports. That's kind of a no-brainer, right? And so this is the problem. The left has gone so far left. The founding fathers were liberals, okay? The left are not liberals. The left are also fascist. The left and the right are just the same, and they just hate each other. And then it's like, oh, Trump's going to release the Epstein documents. There's like, you can literally find dozens of photos of Trump at the Epstein parties. Do you honestly think Trump is going to release what's actually in the Epstein? It blows my mind that people are this dumb. I'm sorry. Like, I'm trying to be a gentler, kinder, sensitive, but I'm seeing, like, people are really suffering. I'm seeing people coming down here and being deported. I'm seeing them having their rights stolen from them by this psychotic country called the United States. At this point, the United States is such a criminal state. And I am a patriot. And I do love my homeland, but it's no longer the United States. At this point, this landmass called the United States would be better off if Canada took one half and Mexico took the land back that they had 100 years ago, and the United States was just gone. Now, I'm not saying Mexico and Canada are just or that they're not corrupt. I'm just saying that the United States at this point is a parasite state, a parasite criminal state collaborating with other parasite criminal states to commit genocide, to wage war, to murder, kill, and steal. And this mindset, like, oh, I don't know those people in foreign lands, they probably deserve it. These are children, these are families, these are widows, these are mothers, these are babies that you're talking about. They have 100% the exact same value as your kids do. And if you think they don't, you're mentally ill. And you need to just be quiet and go get help. Because this is basic stuff. America is all of this. I'm debating with people every day that are trying to decide the fates of people's lives, and they don't even know that the United States isn't America. It is the United States of America. The entire continent is America. Mexico is just as much North America as the United States and Canada. The United States is not America. All of this is America. We're literally all Americans. And most of the people that you're raiding their homes, kicking in their doors, and violating their due process, their families lived on these Americas before yours did. Just like let that sink in and realize how evil and ignorant, or a combination of both, you have to be okay with what's going on. That's why basically all I've been talking about and writing about is doing extensive papers and things like that on the immigration and the history and the fact that it's all this immigration restriction is illegal. Because that is the human rights constitutional violation that's at the forefront right now. And my message was never it's about gun rights more than anything, or it's about not having driver's licenses more than anything. My message was always about we all have rights and they're all equal. This idea that people can be deported because they have their visa, they're legally here, and we're revoking their papers that they worked for, robbing them of their lives, their livelihood, and sending them back, deporting them to a country that oftentimes they haven't even spent most of their life in because they were at a protest. That is such a blatant First Amendment violation that you should be ashamed of yourself if you even clicked like on one of those posts instead of absolutely thrashing on those people that were supporting it. There's so much voice. We always say like the bots and the social medias promoting this. Well, I don't know. I hope all these patriots are bots, but I don't think so. I think people are just that ignorant and dumb. And what we've been calling bots, a lot of them are just people that are that vile and hateful. And it makes me sad to watch. It does break my heart. It does break my heart. So yeah, we can discuss, it's late now, we can discuss some of these topics. I have thought about coming on, doing live, taking a topic that's the headline of the day on Drudge Report, even though we know that they're fascist parrots. But that's still what's being talked about. That's the propaganda. And then take those topics on, because I've been experimenting with ways for a long time to try and do more videos. And so I just wanted to get on here. Thank you guys for supporting. Keep fighting. Keep sticking your neck out. James, check out the video I'm going to post from this if you're still on here, because I showed a video. There's a lot of these Mexican, I don't know if I want to call them auditors or just activists, but they're using very much the style that you and I and many others now used. It's in Spanish, and it's obviously a little calmer because it's Mexico. The culture's different, the way they interact is different. But you got to check out this video and watch it with the English translation subtitles for you noobs that don't speak Spanish yet. But yeah, I mean, speak Spanish or Russian or Chinese, right? Because Trump's trying to do his best to sell us out, to sell the United States out to these other countries. So you're either going to have to stay there behind the wall, it looks like, or come down to a Spanish-speaking country. I honestly don't know who Charlie Kirk is. If it's anybody on immigration, the first thing they need to do is read my article on immigration, because I haven't met anybody that can actually rationally debate me on immigration. Oh, okay, he's one of these guys. Yeah. So, let's see here. Yeah, it looks to me like he's one of these immigration, we're not a country if we don't close our borders kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, the problem is none of these people want to debate me, and they wouldn't anyhow. They would just say I was wrong, that I was a socialist, that I was a leftist, and they would use the buzzwords, and all the people watching them would just blindly agree with it. The fact that I knew the Constitution, I mean, I've studied 200 years of history of immigration, the idea, we literally, it's so simple. All you got to do is read the Declaration. It's listed in the Declaration. Immigration restrictions are listed in the Declaration of Independence as one of the reasons we declared independence and ultimately fought the revolution. Now, I've studied a lot more than that, and I always link that article. You guys can share this article. I put this article up on my site, even though I don't post articles there a lot, so I have a place to send everybody. It's all here. There's 5 years of study here condensed into a 15-minute read. Every argument, because all their arguments are the same. They're never educated arguments. They're just repeating propaganda. Every possible argument that they're currently making for their fascism is debunked right here. So if any of you in here are watching this and you support this crap, go read that article, because I hope that you can get a wake-up call from that. So yeah. And these right-wing pundits, right? When I used to debate, I was on a lot of interviews and radio shows and left-wing radio shows and right-wing radio shows when I was doing Second Amendment stuff. And I was really bold and, kind of in their face, but legally I would mop the floor, because they always just had an emotional argument. They never would discuss any facts or law. It was always just their parties. The thing is, the right has pretended for years that the left is doing this, that the left is all crying. Nobody's a bigger snowflake pansy asses that can't actually handle any sort of debate or facts than the Trump worshipers. If you present facts, all they literally do is leave you a GIF that says, like, wrong. Like that, they're incapable of having a conversation about this. All right? So it's crazy. But anyways, I'm going to go for now. I just wanted to get on here, say goodnight, good evening to a few of you guys, show you a few topics here. And before this gets too long, which it already has, wow, it's late, I'm going to go have a cella and go to bed. Take care of my people. Keep working. But I thank you guys for being here. Keep spreading the word. Please, just don't even engage with debate. Just make some noise. Just leave the comments. All these Daily Wire posts supporting the fascism. Just be like, hey, immigration forbids, the Constitution forbids all of this. You guys are just redcoats. You guys, just push back, please. I feel like no one is doing anything to push back. And I'm always have to be out here in the front pushing back, and no one's saying a word to these psychopaths. And it's weird that right now the left agrees with me more than the right. But I've always been right down the middle, and that's why both sides hate me in the end, right? And if I support the Bundys, or if I say, yeah, those January 6th protesters, the police as usual were the criminals and they should have been let out, then they say I'm a Trump supporter. What people don't get is once you escape, once you grow your mental awareness enough to escape the party, which is simply programming, and you escape that programming language that they've put us in each of our respective cultures to control the world, once you escape that, you don't fit in anywhere, because there is so few people that have escaped that program. It really is a lot like the Matrix. And if you study neuroscience, they're actually from the time that we're little and we're kids and watching TV and in school, they're programming the wiring of our minds to think this stuff is normal. It can be reversed, but the person has to realize first that they have a problem and want to escape. How much are eggs? I think I've been paying about $45 for 360 eggs, which comes out to about $1.50 a dozen. Okay? How much are eggs? And everybody says eggs are like super expensive and that since I've left, everything's, even my brother's like, dude, the US is not the same as even when you left in 2017, because he's been up there, right? And I'm like, but like, because like apparently theft is way up, apparently like everything's way more expensive. A cooked chicken, the chickens are pretty, like a rotisserie chicken here is like $5. No. Yeah, about $5. So the Costco chicken is still a great deal, I hear. Beef is $4 a pound, more or less. Weird thing about beef here, and it's usually not aged, but it doesn't really matter if it's a sirloin or a New York cut or hamburger. It's usually right in there within 50 cents. I don't know how much an alive chicken costs. I think you can buy a whole raw chicken for 70 or 80 pesos. I know that I pay about, I want to say $2 a pound for chicken breast, if that's an example to throw out there. So yeah, hunting permission slips. There's a hunting culture. I was actually just talking to my brother. If you go down to like Yucatan, they're very into their hunting, and there's actually been conflicts because the government has quite a few gun restrictions they've tried here, and they've lost some cases of people down there because they're going out and hunting. That's a very traditional thing to do. I'm in the central part of the country. You don't really, there is like a hunting reserve here that like foreigners come to hunt like exotic animals just like 20 minutes away. And so sometimes I'll see like zebras and stuff there as I'm driving by. But obviously those aren't native animals. Hunting is not really a thing in this part of the country because there's no animals that are visible, at least. I'm assuming they've kind of all been driven away by the population. There's wild lands though. Maybe I shouldn't say hunting's not a thing. It's not really a sport. I never see a deer in the road. I never see anything that's like of a real edible size, except maybe like a possum. So I'm assuming that while hunting isn't really a sport, if people find game, they take it for food without permission. And probably, I know, for example, you don't get a fishing license here. I've fished before. I have gone fishing. So if you go to one of the lakes, I don't even think there's such thing as a fishing license on a personal level. Commercial fishing license if you're at the beach, and maybe even if you're a tourist at the beach, there's a fishing license. But if you go to the lake and just throw a pole in, there's no such thing as a game warden coming to check your fish. That's never something I've heard at, even in this very concentrated central area of the country that's kind of the more regulated area, I guess you could say. So that's something that I hadn't actually thought about in a while. Fishing licenses aren't a thing. Which they shouldn't be. You're going to get a fish. I understand maybe there needs to be some level of management if you're talking about large-scale commercial fishing. And for that, of course, the thing is down here, most people don't get permits for anything, but anything that you're supposed to get, if you do want to get a permit for something, the bureaucracy and the paperwork is ridiculous. So most people just don't do it. Is there any hope left for America in the future? Yes, because this entire continent is America. And there's always hope if we care about each other and stand up for things. Is the United States done? It sure seems that way, but who knows? History doesn't always work out how we thought. And maybe people will realize that they've turned into Nazis and there'll be a shift, right? I don't know. But America is still here, guys. And it's having a lot of problems right now. And the U.S. is at the center of a lot of those. But from Canada to Chile is all America. It's all America. And from the US to Canada to Guatemala is all North America, and a few others in between. So there's a lot more America that you guys can take part in. And that's why it's great to learn Spanish. ¿Eh? Si hablas español, si puedes comunicar con la gente, si sabes hablar, si sabes charlar, si sabes ser humano con otra gente, todo se cambia en tu vida, amigo. Porque con un lenguaje no manches. Con un lenguaje estás como güey, que no sabes nada, que solo estás en tu caja, no puedes ir a ningún lugar y anda como uno de real, solo andes de pinche turista siempre. Y que ya chinga. Chinga la madre. So yeah. Just get out there. Make something more of yourself every single day. And see what happens. Let's try to be positive, but also try and feel the suffering that we're putting people. We're allowing our country. The murders, the deportations, the abuse, the stealing, the robbing, the destroying. And you got the US just like in bed with Russia, with Israeli genocide. And this is the thing I'm seeing. Another thing I'm seeing. You don't get to call someone an anti-Semite or a terrorist because they oppose Israeli war crimes and crimes against humanity, okay? I support the rights of Jews. I always have. This state of Israel that we're dealing with now is not representing the people of God. These are psychotic politicians conquering, stealing, robbing, and pillaging. So don't pretend that to honor God, you have to support the evil that these people are doing. And then they say, oh, well, you must support Hamas. No, I don't support government crazies trying to take control of the poor. I support people's rights. Appreciate it, Stephen. I hope so. That's where I reference people because that's like, that one's been in the works. I actually just finished that last month because this is so hot topic right now. But have that in my drafts and been tinkering with it for like 4 years now. All right. So, yeah. Africa, I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know since leaving the US is that most of the world is not what we think it is. The world's big. And there's so much more out there. All right, I'm sure you guys are all getting tired. I know I am. I'm going to cut this off for now. We'll see you soon. Stay safe. Love your neighbor. Be peace. Stay positive, but keep fighting. Resistance is beautiful.